I never thought owning a pool could feel like living in a war zone. Yet there I was, standing on my deck, watching 6 women in neon swim caps splash around an MY private pool like it was some community rec center. At the head of this aquatic invasion, Karen, the HOA president, self-proclaimed guardian of neighborhood wellness. She leaned against my lounge chair as if she owned it, clipboard in hand, barking out instructions like she was leading a fitness class. "Don't mind us, Robert," she said with that smug smile that could curdle fresh milk. "Your pool is for the greater good." The greater good, apparently, meant her cash box sitting on the table collecting $20 bills from her students. I wanted to scream, but I held back. Because what Karen didn't know was that I already had a plan. One that involved hidden cameras, science experiments she couldn't imagine, and a trap so bright and humiliating it would end her little empire once and for all. But before we get to the day I lit up the whole neighborhood with neon green justice, let me take you back to where it all began. When my wife Sarah and I first moved into Maple Lane, it felt like we had finally won the lottery of life. Our new home had everything we dreamed of: a quiet street, friendly-looking neighbors, and the crown jewel, a sparkling backyard pool that shimmered under the sun. To us, the pool wasn't just water. It was peace. A sanctuary where Sarah could relax after long days and where we could imagine our future kids learning to swim. On weekends, we'd sit with our feet dangling in the water, sipping coffee, listening to birds chirp, and feeling like we had finally escaped the chaos of city life. Neighbors waved when we unpacked boxes, kids rode bikes in perfect formation, and even an ice cream truck jingled by one evening, as if it had been staged to welcome us. Everything felt idyllic, almost too good to be true. And maybe that's why we ignored the first red flags. The little whispers about the HOA president being a bit much. The nervous chuckles when her name came up in conversation. We thought, how bad could she really be? We didn't know it yet, but our peaceful paradise was about to be hijacked, literally, by Karen. It started small, almost laughable. One Saturday morning, I stepped outside with my coffee only to freeze mid-step. There, in the shallow end of my pool, was Karen, visor tilted like a crown, floating on a giant flamingo floaty. "Good morning, neighbor," she chirped, sunglasses flashing. "Just testing the water quality for the community." I blinked, convinced I was hallucinating. "Karen, this is my private pool." She waved a dismissive hand. "Oh, don't be dramatic. Water is for sharing. Besides, the community wellness program needs leaders to set an example." Wellness program? I didn't recall signing up for that. Before I could argue, she slid off the float, splashed her way to the ladder, and strutted out like she'd just completed a royal inspection. I laughed it off at first. Surely it was a one-time thing. Maybe she was eccentric, maybe bored. Sarah raised an eyebrow but shrugged. "If it happens again, we'll deal with it." Spoiler alert, it happened again. And again. Only next time, Karen didn't come alone. She brought friends. And that was the moment things went from bizarre to a full-blown invasion. The second intrusion came with backup. I walked outside to find Karen poolside, this time with 3 women in matching swimsuits, already in the water. She had a clipboard, whistle, and what looked suspiciously like a cash box. "Community aerobics," she announced proudly, as if I should thank her. I set my coffee down slowly, fighting the urge to launch it across the yard. "Karen, this is private property. You can't just host classes here." She smiled like a cat cornering a mouse. "Robert, you need to understand. When one family has a pool, the whole neighborhood benefits. It's about unity." Sarah joined me, arms crossed, jaw tight. Unity doesn't mean trespassing. Karen blew her whistle at us. Negative attitudes lower neighborhood morale. Besides, look how happy everyone is. Sure enough, the women in the pool cheered and laughed, splashing around like it was a public spa. One even handed Karen a crisp 20, which she slipped into her box without hesitation. My fists clenched. My blood boiled. But something inside told me not to lose it just yet. Instead, I said through gritted teeth, "This ends today." Spoiler, it didn't. It got much, much worse. Karen didn't just keep coming back, she escalated. Within a week, my quiet pool had turned into a circus. Strangers I'd never met showed up in matching swim caps, toting yoga mats and coolers of snacks. One morning, I stepped outside to find a full-on pool party happening. Music blared from a Bluetooth speaker. Kids splashed and screamed. My lounge chairs were occupied. Empty soda cans floated near the skimmer. And there was Karen, perched like a queen at the edge, her cash box filling with bills. "Robert," she shouted, as if I were late to my own event. "You really should join us. Community bonding is good for the heart." I saw red. "Karen, this isn't community property. You can't sell tickets to my backyard." She smirked. "According to wellness standards, it benefits everyone. So technically, it is." That was the moment I realized she wasn't clueless. She was strategic. This wasn't just a nosy neighbor. This was a power move, Karen staking her claim, daring me to push back. And as the laughter and splashing filled the air, I knew one thing. If I didn't fight back, we'd lose more than just the pool. We'd lose our home. The morning after her community pool party, I found a yellow slip on my doorstep. Bold letters screamed, "Violation, pool access restriction." The note claimed I was in violation of community health policies by refusing access. At the bottom, signed in perfect block letters, HOA President, Karen Miller. I stormed inside. "Sarah, you won't believe this." She read it, jaw tightening. "She's weaponizing the HOA." Sure enough, more slips followed. Noise complaint for mowing my lawn at 9 a.m. Unauthorized paint shade on our trim, which matched the approved palette. Grass exceeds 2-inch limit. Every slip bore her signature. Every slip chipped away at our peace. Then came the kicker. A posted notice on the HOA app: community wellness contribution required. Pool owners will allow limited neighborhood access for the health and morale of residents. A tax. For my own pool. Neighbors commented with fake enthusiasm, cheering Karen's vision. But a few private messages trickled in, warning me, "She's been doing this for years. She won't stop until you give in." That was the moment I realized. This wasn't just about swimming. This was about control. I decided enough was enough. I called the HOA board. "She's trespassing, running a business out of my pool." The man on the phone sighed. "Sir, the president oversees wellness initiatives. If you have concerns, bring them up at the next meeting." The next meeting was 3 months away. So I tried the sheriff's office. 20 minutes later, Deputy Martinez showed up, notebook in hand. I laid it all out: trespassing, cash payments, fake wellness programs. He glanced at Karen, who stood poolside in her visor, waving like she was running for mayor. "Deputy, just hosting a neighborhood event. For wellness." Martinez scribbled, then shrugged. "Civil matter. Work it out with your board." I stared at him. "She's stealing from me." He closed his notebook. "Not my jurisdiction, sir. Good luck." When he left, Karen smirked. "See? Nobody cares. Best to just accept it." I felt powerless. The law wouldn't help. The HOA was under her thumb. And Karen? She was bold enough to flaunt it. But that night, as I stared at my reflection in the dark pool water, powerless turned into something else. Resolve. If nobody else was going to stop her, I would. The war at the pool wasn't just mine anymore. It was seeping into every part of our lives. Sarah started drawing the blinds during Karen's classes. She hated the sound of splashing and Karen's whistle echoing through our home. "It feels like we're prisoners in our own house," she whispered. Neighbors stopped waving. Some looked away, embarrassed. Others openly sided with Karen, probably hoping they'd get a free swim pass. I caught Sarah crying one evening, staring at the baby room we'd painted sky blue. "How can we raise a child here if we can't even protect our own backyard?" That cut deeper than any HOA violation ever could. I hugged her, heart heavy but determined. "I promise you, Sarah, this ends. I'll make sure of it. But the truth was, I didn't know how. Every attempt to fight back had failed. Karen was untouchable. Smug, powerful, untouchable. Until one night, while reviewing the security footage I'd installed, I noticed something. Karen wasn't just trespassing. She was collecting cash, logging attendance, even handing out memberships. That was when the idea sparked. If the law wouldn't protect us, I'd build my own justice. Piece by piece, wire by wire. Karen must have sensed my shift in attitude because she doubled down. The next Saturday, I walked outside and caught her in the middle of another class. Only this time, when I demanded she leave, she stepped nose to nose with me, visor shadowing her glare. "You don't get it, Robert," she hissed. "Your pool belongs to us now. Either play nice, or I'll make sure your life here becomes very, very uncomfortable." Her students gasped. One of them whispered, "Karen, maybe we should." Karen cut her off. "No. He needs to understand who runs this neighborhood." Then she shoved a new yellow slip into my chest. "Fence height exceeds code." The ink was still wet. She had pre-written violations ready to go. My blood boiled. I wanted to snap. But I remembered Deputy Martinez's words, "Civil issue." Fine. If this was civil, then I'd fight it civilly. With evidence. With proof. With something Karen couldn't spin away. Because at that moment, it became crystal clear. This wasn't just a feud. It was war. And Karen had no idea I was already building the battlefield where she'd lose. A week later, the circus took a new turn. At 7 a.m., a man in a reflective vest knocked on my door. Clipboard in hand, badge hanging from a lanyard that looked like it came from a novelty store. "City inspection," he announced. "Unsafe dimensions in your pool. Stop use order effective immediately." Unsafe dimensions. I repeated, incredulous. He pointed vaguely at the water. "Height variance." I called the city office on speaker. "Do you guys do surprise pool inspections?" The clerk laughed. "Sir, no. And height variance isn't a thing." The inspector shuffled backward, muttered something about miscommunication, and darted off down the street. As he passed my mailbox, a slip fell out of his clipboard. At the top, HOA. Letterhead. Signed, Karen Miller. Sarah held the slip like it was radioactive. She sent him. That night, I laid everything out on the kitchen table. Fake inspections, trespassing footage, cash exchanges. Sarah studied the files. "You're building a case," she said softly. I nodded. Not just a case. A trap. Because if Karen wanted to play dirty, I was ready to play smart. And soon, the pool she thought she owned would become her stage of humiliation. That night, I sat on the edge of the pool, staring into the rippling water. It looked calm, but I knew better. It had become the center of every fight, every sleepless night, every ounce of stress Sarah and I carried. Then the idea hit me. If Karen wanted to use my pool as her stage, fine. I'd turn it into a stage she'd never forget. See, during my time overseas, I'd learned two important things. One, you don't fight strength with strength, you fight it with strategy. And two, arrogance always creates openings. Karen was arrogant. She believed she was untouchable. That would be her downfall. I pulled out my notebook and started sketching. Hidden cameras. Remote controls. A little science experiment involving tracer dye, the kind used in storm drains. Harmless, safe, but incredibly visible. The plan wasn't about violence. It was about exposure. Literally. Karen wanted the neighborhood's attention. I'd give it to her in neon colors she couldn't deny. When Sarah found me scribbling under the porch light, she asked, "What are you doing?" I looked up, determination hard in my voice. "I'm building justice." Preparation became my new obsession. Every night after work, I tinkered in the garage like a mad scientist. First, I set up a network of small, weatherproof cameras, hidden among the hedges and light fixtures. Every angle of the pool was covered. "No more," he said, she said. Next, I installed a remote-controlled system under the deck. With the press of a button, special jets would release the tracer dye into the pool. Non-toxic, food-grade, totally safe. But once it hit the water, instant neon glow. And here's the kicker. It bonded with sunscreen and lotion, meaning anyone who swam would carry the evidence on their skin for hours. Sarah helped test it. A dab of sunscreen on her arm, a quick dip in the kiddie pool we used for trial runs, boom. Under a UV flashlight, her arm glowed like a radioactive comic book character. Joey, my next-door neighbor and unofficial partner in crime, grinned when he saw it. Dude, this is genius. Karen's gonna look like the Joker when you're done with her. But this wasn't about laughs. This was about proof. The kind Karen couldn't spin, bury, or deny. The trap was ready. All I needed was for her to walk right into it. It didn't take long. Karen was addicted to control. She couldn't resist another class. That Saturday morning, I woke to the sound of splashing and laughter. I peeked through the blinds. Sure enough, there she was. Visor on, whistle blowing, cash box already filling up as neighbors handed her bills. Sarah placed a hand on my shoulder. Are you ready? I nodded, remote control in my pocket. Cameras rolling. Police non-emergency line already on speed dial. Everything was in place. I stepped outside, coffee mug in hand, pretending to be annoyed but not furious. Karen grinned, mistaking my calm for defeat. Robert, glad you joined us. We're just boosting community wellness again. Her students chuckled, thinking this was just another showdown. They had no idea. I sipped my coffee, then said evenly, Karen, today's going to be different. She smirked. Oh, really? And what are you going to do about it? I slipped my thumb over the hidden button. You'll see. And with one satisfying click, I unleashed the beginning of her downfall. At first, nothing happened. The pool water rippled innocently under the morning sun. Karen smirked, arms crossed, already ready to mock me. Then the jets activated. A fine mist bubbled up, swirling across the surface. Within seconds, the crystal blue pool transformed into a glowing, radioactive lime green. The reaction was instant. Screams erupted as swimmers scrambled to the sides, their skin glowing under the sunlight where sunscreen clung. Neon streaks painted arms, legs, even faces. One woman clawed her way up the ladder, shrieking, "What's happening?" Her hands glowed so brightly it looked like she'd dipped them in a vat of paint. Karen's smug smile evaporated. She spun toward me, dripping with glowing water, eyes wide with fury. You ruined everything." The cameras caught every second. Neighbors peered over fences, phones out, recording the spectacle. The Queen of Maple Lane, humiliated in front of her loyal subjects. I raised my coffee mug in salute. Community wellness, right? Consider this evidence. Karen's face twisted in rage as she realized, for the first time, she wasn't in control. While chaos erupted, I calmly tapped my phone, confirming the cameras were recording from every angle. The neon dye clung to Karen's skin, her clothes, even her precious clipboard. Each glowing drop screamed caught red-handed. Or, in this case, green-handed. Neighbors' laughter mixed with gasps. Phones went up. Karen's once loyal students scrambled out, glowing like they'd just walked through a nuclear reactor. One even shouted, "You never told us this was private property," before storming off. Karen tried to salvage her dignity, barking orders like a general in retreat. "Don't film this. Delete that footage." But it was too late. The internet had already joined the party. I dialed 911, putting it on speaker so dispatch could hear. "Trespassers conducting paid classes in my private pool. The water is now visibly persuasive." The operator paused. "Sir, please don't add color." "Too late," I said, watching Karen fume. Sirens wailed in the distance. Neighbors cheered like fans at a sporting event. And there stood Karen, dripping neon evidence, clutching her glowing cash box like it could save her. But nothing could. Because for the first time ever, The HOA queen was exposed, and the kingdom was laughing. Karen stood there dripping neon green, hair plastered to her face, clutching her glowing clipboard like it was a shield. Her voice cracked with fury. "This is an attack. He assaulted us with chemicals." The crowd laughed. Even her own students weren't buying it anymore. One woman pointed at Karen's glowing hands and shouted, "You took our money for this." Karen spun, desperate. "Don't listen to him. He's trying to destroy our community spirit." But the glow told the truth. Every cash bill she touched, every note on her clipboard, all marked with fluorescent powder. Proof she'd been running a scam out of my backyard. Her eyes darted around, looking for allies. But neighbors weren't nodding anymore. They were recording, streaming, smiling at the downfall of the self-appointed queen. Finally, she snapped. She lunged at me, shoving my chest. "You set me up." I barely staggered before holding up my phone, the live feed still rolling. "No, Karen. You set yourself up." And at that exact moment, red and blue lights painted the street. Deputy Martinez stepped out of the cruiser, boots crunching on gravel, eyes narrowing at the spectacle before him. For once, he didn't look bored. Karen bolted toward him, dripping neon water, waving her glowing clipboard. "Officer, arrest him. He poisoned us." Martinez raised an eyebrow. Did you pay to swim here?" Her jaw dropped. They paid me." The words slipped out before she could stop them. I held up my cracked phone, camera still streaming. "Private property. Trespassing. Unauthorized business. Evidence on video." Martinez scanned the scene, the cash box glowing like kryptonite, the neighbors nodding, the trespassers fleeing. Finally, he exhaled. You're done. Hands where I can see them." Karen froze, stunned that her usual intimidation failed. "This is a misunderstanding," she shrieked as Martinez carefully bagged the glowing cash box like radioactive evidence. Neighbors erupted in cheers. Phones filmed from every angle. Karen's reign of entitlement, crumbling in real time. For once, I felt the weight lift. The law, which had ignored me for weeks, was finally on my side. But the real reckoning wasn't here at the curb. It was waiting at the HOA meeting. A week later, the rec center buzzed with more energy than a courtroom. Folding chairs lined the walls, every seat packed. Neighbors whispered, eyes darting toward me, Sarah, and Karen, now stripped of her visor, looking smaller without her throne. Acting Chair Mrs. Delgado banged the gavel. Agenda Item 1. Charges against former President Karen Miller. I connected my laptop to the projector. The first clip filled the screen, Karen pocketing cash while trespassing in my pool. The room gasped. Next slide. Glowing bills under UV light, her fingerprints visible. Then, spreadsheets showing inflated wellness expenses traced to her personal accounts. Ron, the HOA treasurer, stepped forward with shaking hands. "I can confirm these transfers. Over $60,000 diverted." Karen shot up, voice shrill. "This is fabricated. He framed me." Abernathy, the retired county solicitor, leaned into the mic. "Every piece of evidence has been authenticated. Chain of custody is airtight." The room erupted, some shouting in anger, others clapping in relief. Mrs. Delgado raised the gavel once more. All in favor of removal and referral to law enforcement. Hands shot up like fireworks. Overwhelming majority. Karen's empire collapsed in one single vote. The aftermath was surreal. Deputies escorted Karen and her security officer dug out of the meeting, their protests drowned by the applause of neighbors who had lived in fear for too long. Over the following weeks, the neighborhood transformed. No more yellow slips. No more surprise inspections. For the first time since moving in, Sarah and I sat by our pool without glancing over our shoulders. Neighbors we barely knew stopped by with pies, thank yous, even apologies. "We were scared to stand up to her," one confessed. "But you gave us courage." Sarah finally smiled again, the worry lines fading. "It feels like home now," she whispered one night as we dangled our feet in the calm, blue water. Even Joey couldn't resist a joke. "Bro, if you ever make that pool glow again, at least warn me so I can sell tickets." I laughed. But deep down, I knew the lesson wasn't about glowing dye or clever traps. It was about boundaries, and the cost of letting someone trample them. Karen had tried to take everything. But in the end, she gave me something unexpected. A community united. Late one summer evening, Sarah and I sat by the pool, the water calm and still under the stars. No sirens. No whistles. No trespassers. Just peace. She rested a hand on her belly, smiling at the gentle kick of new life inside. "Promise me," she whispered, "no more wars with neighbors." I squeezed her hand. "Only if trouble comes knocking. And if it does, we'll handle it smart." Across the street, porch lights flickered on. Laughter drifted through the warm night. For the first time, Maple Lane felt like a neighborhood again, not a kingdom ruled by fear. I thought back to the chaos, the humiliation, the trap that turned the tide. Justice hadn't come from yelling or fists. It came from patience, planning, and refusing to let entitlement win. Sometimes victory isn't loud. It's quiet. It's the sound of sprinklers ticking across lawns. The glow of a pool that no longer feels like a battlefield. The laughter of neighbors finally free. As I looked at Sarah and the life we were building, I realized one truth. Fences protect, but courage restores. And that night, with stars above and peace around us, we were finally home.